Welcome to Mental Reset, real tools and real talk for men's mental health.
And in today's episode, we're going to be covering the often tricky to navigate topic of addiction. And in this modern, fast-paced world where there's lots of immediate gratification and dopamine availability, people are becoming more addicted than ever before and to more things as well. Because there's always been drugs and alcohol, those typical addictions that you might think of, but we're going to cover, in this modern, very different world, the kinds of things that people might start to develop a struggle with. And addiction, in its most simplest terms, is something that I've lost the power of control over, or it's having a detrimental effect on my life.
In terms of classifying what an addiction is there a specific set of parameters? Does it have to be something that negatively impacts you? How would you classify what an addiction is?
It is tough, right? Because there is no blood test, X-ray or MRI scan. So it's kind of person-centered. It's looking at that thing or behavior, because it's not limited to ingesting something like a substance like nicotine, alcohol, cocaine, drugs. It could be a behavior like gambling. So really, if I lost the power of control, can I no longer be without it? Once I start doing that thing, can I not stop? Or also, if it's having a detrimental effect on my life, because you might be able to go, you know what, I'm not going to have a bet on the football this weekend. I'm not going to have a bet on the football. Well, actually, I could afford 20 quid, even though, really, you can't really afford 20 quid. It doesn't have to be you're in loads and loads of debt to go, I've got a gambling issue, problem, concern. So I've lost the power of control and it's having a detrimental effect. So I've done it and I wish I hadn't done it, basically. You know what? Well, I wish I had done that now. So there's no clear classification. And there's lots of different perspectives in this space. I mean, if you look at Alcoholics Anonymous, created in 1935, they've got some very clear indicators of what an alcoholic is. But back when that book was written, mental illness didn't exist. I don't mean it didn't exist as in it didn't exist. It just wasn't recognised. It wasn't talked about. And you won't find much, if any, conversation around mental health in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So it's changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
In this modern world, there's lots of other things now to be aware of, keep a watch on. Whereas back then, it was more linear, right? It was more, in that box of alcohol, drugs, and maybe sex addiction or gambling.
Yeah, it feels like, the life that we live now, there's so much, variety of things that people tend to get addicted to. And I think the big thing about it is how accessible things are now, because everything, as things progress, technology and whatever, everything is made to be easier to access. So I guess where that is the case, people are sort of falling into the trap more and getting into addictive behavior.
100%, 100%. And you know what, even something that starts as a healthy pursuit could be an addiction by way of it's having a detrimental effect on my life. So for example, I believe I've been addicted to the gym before. That's good for your mental health, your physical health. But I started going to the gym, I started feeling good, you're getting serotonin, endorphins, dopamine, get to a certain weight, and I'd be like, you know what, I want to be bigger. So then I got to that weight, I'd want to be bigger. And the only way you get to a certain weight or amount of muscle is steroid misuse. You can add into that the complexity of potential eating disorder behaviors or body dysmorphia. So what started as a, let's go to the gym, let's get fit and healthy. And you can see on that journey, or I can see how it was having a detrimental effect on my life. Even the point where you don't need to go to the gym. You don't want to go. I've had a tiring or difficult day and your head starts to send messages and say things like, but you need to go to the gym. You'll lose weight. You ate that bit of cake at the weekend. You need to go to the gym. And you have that argument with yourself. So it's no longer a healthy pursuit. It's having a detrimental effect on my mental health, my physical health, or my well-being. But you're absolutely right. In this modern world, there are more opportunities to become addicted to different things other than drugs, alcohol, and substances.
So what kind of things, what kind of themes do you see coming up in terms of addiction?
Well, there's one that we need to kind of be very aware of in the modern world, and it's terrifying, the addiction world, because we've captured enough brain scans, studies, research, and data to show the damage it's doing. It's only got to this point now, we've captured all of that. And this addiction is terrifying, the addiction world, because it's got 3 A's that no other addictions ever had. So this addiction is anonymous. No one knows if you're doing it. It's affordable, it's absolutely free, and it's accessible. It's available 24/7. Now, if you think about alcohol, it's not affordable. Well, it's not free.
Yeah.
From that perspective, anonymous. If I'm drinking a lot, you might see signs. I might be hungover and sick for work. Gambling, it's definitely not affordable. Maybe a level of anonymity and accessibility, because we've got tablets,
Online,
iPads, online. I know you know the answer to this question, but which addiction am I referring to that's terrifying the addiction world?
Well, yeah, I only know because I know you've done some work with Fight the New Drug recently, haven't you?
Yeah.
So, but it is pornography.
Fightthenewdrug.org, they are a movement to show the damage and the danger with pornography, not just from a perspective of addiction, but how it's shaping how we view ourselves and others. Intimacy, self-esteem can be impacted by it. It's not always consensual because people assume that what they see on a website is a consensual act. It isn't always the case. I mean, the average exposure to pornography in the UK is sadly 12 years old.
Really?
12 years old. So if you think back to those 3 A's, why would some of us be okay having a few beers and some of us become alcoholic? Why could some of us have a bet on the football or the horse racing and some of us become addicted to gambling? The mind will sometimes go where it wants to go. But imagine that's where my mind's gone, right? That's what my brain's got addicted to, those dopamine pathways. It's available 24/7 without leaving the house. It's absolutely free and no one knows if I'm doing it. People are losing jobs as a result of porn addiction. People are ringing in sick. People are being hospitalized to the point where they're glued to that screen, not hydrating, not sleeping, so sleep deprivation. Like it's, I know people watching this will be like, really? But more and more people, not just men, but mostly are approaching me and saying, you know what? I've got or had a problem with that. And I think I've coined this phrase, but dopamine stacking.
Yeah.
The extra layer of danger is I've realized somehow that if I were to drink or use drugs and do that, it's even more of a dopamine boost, that false fun, that what maybe started as fun then develops into fun with problems, and now I'm just left with problems. Addiction can creep along, through the back door, 1% per day. Some people will just go straight into addiction, just hit it and never look back and stop. Some people, it can evolve over the years, and that's kind of my journey with addiction.
Yeah, and you talked about dopamine stacking. So, and dopamine's like a word that's used quite a lot nowadays, isn't it? I mean, 5 years ago, no one would have known what dopamine was. So, what is dopamine, and why do we tend to seek easy dopamine fixes?
We demonize dopamine, but it's there for survival. It's there to give you that drive to go get and achieve. So you can imagine back in the day, hunter-gatherer, we needed dopamine to get going, to survive, to go and hunt and find shelter and warmth. But in this modern world, we can seek out that easy and cheap dopamine, that quick fix. And there's lots of different examples. We're a similar age. You'd probably disagree. I'm a bit older.
Just a bit.
Just a tad. But when we used to watch TV back in the day, it wasn't stop-start, right? You'd watch an episode and you'd have to wait a week for the next one. You're looking forward to it. You're anticipating it. Now, if you're into a good seasonal series, you could binge watch the whole season.
Skip the intros as well. You're not waiting around for any of it, are you?
No, you used to have to watch the adverts. And now it's almost like, I want it now. I want it straight away. So people aren't the problem and people aren't weak. The world has changed. The world's got harder because how hard is it to resist some of this stuff when it's there and it's available?
Yeah.
You want it now, and your mind's going to say, actually, I do want it now. Whereas the way the world was previously, slower, that wasn't a threat or a risk. It wasn't there. So going back to even pornography addiction, pornography has always been around, right? But it just wasn't there and available. The threat wasn't there. Whereas now it's so accessible.
Mm-hmm.
You can see how it'd be harder for people to resist temptation, and easier for people to go, you know what, I'm just gonna have a little more, do this or do that or whatever it might be. And that's why we're seeing more people struggle with addiction than ever before, because these modern world challenges.
So what is your journey? What's your experience been like with addiction?
I'm, an addict in recovery, and I don't mean in the kind of, there's lots of different ways you can interpret that, right? A lot of people are on a sobriety journey, and if you're in the world of Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, it's sobriety, and it's celebrated, and it's abstinence from all mind-altering substances. I prefer healing.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer a healing journey. Rather than trying to avoid that thing, building the life you want and building yourself up to be the person you want, I think is a bit more, just a bit more attractive to me. Trying to avoid doing something is really difficult if you haven't got a different direction to go in.
Yeah.
It's like that psychological thing. If I said to you now, don't think about a blue elephant, you're probably thinking about a blue elephant.
Yeah, it's in there.
But if I prepped you and primed you and said, right, every time I say don't think about a blue elephant, think about a pink one. Don't think about a blue elephant. You can replace one thought with another. So whereas my journey with recovery I didn't know I was addicted. I landed in Ibiza age 18, didn't know I had a mental illness, and had no kind of awareness, understanding, support. And I landed in Ibiza. I went, whoa, I found myself. Brilliant. An escape from my own head. Something I could do or use that made me feel better, made me feel different. So it started as unaware escapism. But over the years, that kind of got more intense. You have to take things a little bit further, a little bit harder, a little bit higher. Crept in through the back door, 1% per day. Started with fun, then fun with problems, and then just problems in later life. So my journey with addiction, it was mostly drugs. It was cocaine, to kind of call it out, and it got to a point where they say the gift of desperation, like you're rock bottom. That point where you go,
yeah.
Well, I'm sick of doing this, but I don't really know how to change it or where to go. And I started with Cocaine Anonymous.
Yeah.
And that's a great place for anyone to start, right? If you're in the destructive cycle of addiction and you start to go to meetings, that's a good replacement. That's like, I'm going to go on a meeting every day, because by doing that, it's stopping me at least going down that path. But there's more to it than that for me. AA, CA, NA, these groups, the 12-step programs, don't work for everyone, and they are amazing. We need them. It is a great place to start, but it can be a little bit, it's our way or the highway. And I wanted to kind of build a journey of recovery that looked a little bit different. And it is, it's unique to every person. It's bespoke, it's person-centered. But I was 8 months sober when I got sectioned. And it was almost like, let's remove that coping strategy of a lifetime, but not replace it with anything else.
Yeah, got you.
And I kind of learned that the hard way. And like all groups, and I don't want this to discourage people to go into a 12-step program, absolutely not. It is a great place to start. And I like your analogy about the swimming as well. That's kind of relevant here. What's that analogy?
If you see someone drowning,
Yeah.
you don't teach them how to swim.
Yeah.
You first pull them out
Yeah.
and save them before you teach them.
That's the one. So AA and 12-step programs, it's like that. It's let's pull you out. Let's apply first aid, life-saving first aid in that acute stage of addiction. Let's pull you out and keep you safe and keep you sober. But thereafter, it's about finding your right group. So I got in with, say, not so good group, a toxic group. They would be discouraged from sponsoring you if you're on medication for a mental illness. They kind of were very hardcore. They believed all your problems were down to addiction. They didn't believe in, mental illness, depression, anxiety. And I was so unwell, so poorly with my mental illness. I was impressionable. They'd say, I'd try and share like that. I don't feel great. And they'd say, you're not meditating hard enough. You're not praying hard enough. You're not being honest. And you start to believe that. I think that's where not all, some of these groups get a bad rep as being a bit of a cult, because the group I was with, you were told how to feel or how you should feel. You're told what to think. The sponsor was the sponsor's sponsor, the grand messiah. Everything he said, you had to believe it, and like they kind of walked on water. And I was so unwell. I just wanted to be well, and I was told this is how you get well. I'm still involved in 12-step groups, but now it's more of a tool.
Yeah.
If I feel that addiction is a risk, if I feel my mind creeping back into that space, I'll jump on a meeting. You can go on worldwide meetings. There are meetings round the clock because you've got different time zones and countries, but it's one tool out of many that I now use to stay well, to stay away from addiction and carry on healing rather than being sober.
Yeah.
Because typically, if I was in one of those programs, I'm not allowed to drink. Now, drinking was never really my problem. I don't really drink today because I choose not to, because it doesn't really bother me. But let's say me and you, we went out one weekend and we had a couple of beers, I'd be okay with that. But technically speaking, that's in the addiction world, the 12-step world, a relapse. And you've got to go and declare it. And there's a lot of judgment, I've relapsed. And I even heard things in my group like, we're not here to babysit your relapses.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow.
It's a dangerous place to be, really, isn't it? Because if you're making this progress and you relapse, it like, I guess that because it's such a negative attachment to the word relapse, that feels like failure, doesn't it? Like, and so yeah, it's
and I think relapses are there to teach us something. This is one of the main messages I want through this episode, is to give people hope. If you've tried, keep trying. If that didn't fit for you, look at other things you can do. Relapse isn't a failure. Like, it's there to teach you something. Like, if you have what we label as a relapse, okay, so how many days was it? 10? Let's go for 20. Here it's 20, let's go for 30. What were the triggers? What was the reason for the relapse? Each relapse can teach you something if you want to explore it. Was it because you were stressed and you're trying to process stress? Or was it because life was great and you like that familiar chaos and you thought you can afford some of that because you've showed up for life, work, family? Like, those relapses can be there to teach you something. But in my specific group of CA, it wasn't seen that way. It wasn't explored. It was like the old eye roll and like, and it's almost like the sponsor took it personally. Like, the sponsors in that room were almost like soul collectors. They had like 20 sponsees and they had this perfect record. So if any one of those relapsed, it was almost like they were condemned. And
we don't want you in this group anymore.
I'm not going to sponsor you anymore because I'm the grand messiah of sponsors. And there was even one person, right, I remember, and this isn't negatively talking about this. This is being real. We're on about real talk, real tools for men's mental health, and I just want to be really honest and real. So if people have had, as they share with me all the time, a similar experience, to know that you're not alone. You're not alone. There's other things you can do, and we'll share the links in the chat. But there's someone who went on holiday, and I think he had a Coke, and his wife had a vodka and Coke, and he's accidentally picked up the wrong drink, took a sip, realised, stopped, and he felt like he needed to confess this to his sponsor, and his sponsor removed all of his sponsees and took his chips off him. You know, the chips that you get like 1 year, 2 year, 5 years. And I was just like, and after I got better, after being sectioned and looking after the thing that I should have looked after first and foremost, my mental illness, I started to see this for what it was. So again, this isn't negatively talking about any group or space. There's great groups in AA, CA, NA, GA, and I found those great groups. So what I would say is if someone's on this journey, it's a great place to start, but if that group doesn't quite fit for you, if it doesn't work for you, that's okay. Find your tribe, find your group, look in different spaces, and we'll share the places to look as part of this episode.
Yeah. So what would you say has been the key for your journey of recovery to?
I say there's lots of different keys. I see a counsellor and have done a therapist I was seeing him every week at my worst, and then it went to like every 2 weeks. And now we're at the point where we just have like a 6 monthly check-in, and he's always available for me to message. And he was brilliant. You know, he's 23 years sober because he had a real problem with a real concern with drugs. And, you know, I won't share too much of his story because it's his to share, but he was in the midst of it. He went through a healing journey and went on to be a counselor therapist. So I saw him, and he kind of went through my life story, and you have to recall memories from year like 1 to 6. I can't remember anything from them, but you do. It's locked in there somewhere. I can remember that. And through that sharing of your life journey, you can see almost like these patterns of behaviour, like why I turned to drugs and alcohol and became dependent on it, and that was my coping strategy for life. And even he'll say, I don't know how it works. It's like magic, but through that process, you get to the end and you just go, I don't really want to do that anymore. Like, I'm not really bothered. Like, there's no effort or willpower to avoid it anymore. It's just, it's almost like if you said to me, do you want to go and have a Sunday roast? And I'd be like, yeah, do I fancy one or not? That's how I am with drugs and alcohol now. So he's helped me immensely. And if anyone wants a great book, I'd say The Addicted Personality by Craig Nakin. Great book. That can teach you a lot about, addiction overall. So I think it's a person-centered approach. CA's helped me. Having a counsellor and therapist who specialises in that space helped me. Having a community of people I could be honest with helped me. You've helped me, and you probably don't realise you've helped me, but you unofficially became my accountability partner. And what I mean by that is, the first time you've heard about this, like I shared that voice note at the weekend.
Yes.
I said, look, I was at risk. The risk factors were there. I thought I could see. You know, I had the house to myself, and I've been working really hard, and no one needs anything from me. I've shut up from mum and dad. So, I shared that with you on a voice note. And where you've become a bigger part of that accountability partner, if you like, is I got to the point with addiction now where I wouldn't let people down to do that thing. You know, back in the day, I'd have let you down. I'd have rang up and said, I've got work, I can't, to go and involve myself in that addiction. But today, I wouldn't let you down. I wouldn't let my mum and dad down. If I've put something in place, I know full well I'm not going to cancel that because, you matter to me, my mum and dad matter to me. So by putting these little things in place, if ever there was a risk where I thought, I'm feeling a little bit wavy, because your mind starts running, your head will start saying, you've done really well, go and have a little bit of fun. What about your fun? But if I know I've booked to see you on a Saturday, or we're doing something on a Sunday, or I've offered to help my mum and dad out, then I'm not.
You're not going to put that at risk, and
it's not happening. But that happened over time. Some people will go sober from that thing and never look back.
But it's also about having the awareness, though, isn't it? That is how I'm feeling, like recognizing the signs that I might be a bit susceptible, and you kind of need to recognize that pretty quickly, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And I'd encourage someone, you can do that through talking it out with someone. You can journal it. You could just sit back. I've got an addiction journal that I've kept year on year on year. Anytime I'm feeling something, and the journal's in my phone, because let's face it, your phone's never too far away. I'll put in the date, I'm feeling this, I'm worried about that. And you start to notice those daily, weekly, monthly patterns. And with me, addiction maybe started as escapism, a coping
Yeah.
strategy, but then it evolved into a point where it was almost like I'd do it when things were great. It was familiar chaos rather than this unfamiliar peace. So I'd be like, work's great, finances are good, no one needs me, everything's going really, really well. I just want to press that self-destruct button. Like, where's the
Yeah.
chaos? That feels more
Yeah.
familiar. So it's so unique in why people would do it. It can be to escape, change the way you feel. It could be the practical steps of when you're away in a hotel on your own. It could be when you're out with friends. It could be when you're in a pub. I know some people who are now sober and they can still do all the things they did before. It's not like they've got to lock themselves away and never go to the pub, never go on the night out. Like, they've got to a space like me where it's a choice like any other choice. I
Yeah.
can consciously
Yeah.
go, do I want to do that or not? No, I actually don't want
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that I've ever had an addiction, so to speak, but I gave up alcohol. Um, it was a choice I made. Alcohol was a trigger for my illness.
Right.
I recognised before I got diagnosed with the illness, I recognised that it just wasn't serving me at all. But it was when after the diagnosis, I thought, okay, I'm gonna knock it on the head. And I mean, I'm not teetotal. I will set aside a time every few months, or every 4 months or something, where I'll
Yeah.
be like, I'll have a drink that night. But honestly, it's probably one of the best things I've ever done. Really proud of myself for doing it as well, because it takes a lot. Like, I don't
Yeah.
remove myself from situations. I mean, like last night, for example, I was out with a group of mates. There was 12 of them, went for an Indian, and I think must have been about 70 pints consumed, and I was on the waters, and it could be quite a challenging
Yeah.
space to operate in. But for me, I mean, one of the biggest things I've kind of got out of being sober is the I think I used to drink to unlock that part of me where I was carefree and to
Right.
get that confidence.
Yeah.
And when I kind of realised that actually that's a part of me, that is me anyway. So why is it taking me alcohol to act that way, or be that confident,
Yeah.
or talk, or dance? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's been massive for me, and I love that kind of lifestyle now.
Yeah, that's it. And I love the fact you'd not had an addiction or a
Mm,
problem with alcohol, but you just recognise my life could be better
yeah.
without it.
Mm,
Detrimental effect on your life, it triggered your autoimmune
hmm.
condition. And actually, I want to be that person that can be confident and dance and ask for a number without that. That's me. So why can't I unlock that? I love the fact you've deep dived into what
Yeah.
is this actually giving me? And can I access that without the alcohol? And that must have been really hard going out with them friends as well, because it is celebrated in society. Drinking is
Yeah.
normalised.
If you think of any moment, that you would normally celebrate, I bet you can't think of many that don't involve alcohol.
No.
Sort of, we're celebrating this. Let's get a bottle of champagne.
Yeah. And why is that? Because actually the celebration is the thing I'm celebrating. Right? The
Yeah.
alcohol doesn't add to it. And it's almost like you create those cognitive pathways where you associate relaxation with alcohol
Yeah.
or confidence
Yeah.
with alcohol
Yeah.
or whatever substance it is. So yeah, that's why I use healing. Was I an addict? Absolutely. But it wasn't like the person who's losing jobs and financially bankrupt. It was like a sneaky little addiction. It
Mm.
was almost like, for me to have some longevity to that addiction, I still needed to own life and show up. And when I've gone into these groups, you assume, you make a judgment in your head, right? I'm going to be in AA or CA, and there's going to be these people. And actually, it was like business owners,
Yeah.
CEOs, moms, dads. It was everyday, normal, usual people. And that's another message I want to put out for this. If you are struggling with something, and you think you might be addicted, then you deserve help. And then it's sadly too common these days. So please don't have that self-stigma where you think, oh, what's wrong with me? I shouldn't be. It's so prevalent. It's so common. And it's not that people are weaker. It's that the modern world makes it so accessible and so easy. So if you have been affected by anything we've talked about on this episode, we're going to share lots of useful links in the chat and in the description for the episode. There's loads of help available. I'd encourage you to check out fightthenewdrug.org. Really fascinating. Their movement is inspiring. The way they've, faced this addiction of pornography that people aren't talking about still because of the embarrassment and the shame. But we'll share lots of useful resources as always, because this is real talk and real tools for men's mental health.
If you've enjoyed watching us today, please hit that like button. And if you want to join further conversations, hit subscribe. And better yet, please share this with anyone that you think might benefit from it.